So allow me once again, I will be your podcast host for today, and I'll be giving you updates on gold and BTC, specifically the Elliott Wave theory counts. So let's start with a recall of my previous analysis. So let me start with my November 6 analysis. Okay, allow me to play a little of this video or the recording of my previous podcast hosting to give you a preview of what have been forecasted last November 6 and what happened after 2 weeks uh, during my November 20 uh, hosting, and then I'll give you the update today about the Elliott wave counts of gold and Bitcoin. So first with the let's start first with the November 6, 2025. So allow me to uh, turn on the subtitle here so that you may see the actual statements that I have mentioned. Okay, allow me to play a little of this video. The second down, the bounce up, three waves bounce up is wave B, and then this will be the wave C. So since we have completed the possible expanded flat structure, I will not be surprised if in the next days gold will create another new all-time high. So from that short clip, I have mentioned I have mentioned in my previous analysis that uh, after the completion of the expanded flat, which is the ABC here, wherein the wave C was the internal waves of this encircled wave C was already completed. I have mentioned that I will not be surprised if the next days gold will create another new all-time high. So as you can see, this was analyzed November 6, and we know that the price of gold now is around 4,200 plus. Uh, During this live market analysis podcast session, the price was just around 3,983. And if you want a quick summary of this previous analysis, you may use Copilot AI if you're using Microsoft Edge, and then you can easily see the summary by prompting the following, using the following. Summarize the video on this page, and then you will be given a detailed summary of my previous session. So let's just go to some of the highlights, uh, specifically this one. I mentioned here that the possible reversal of the sideways movement may happen uh, March 2026. Of course, that's just a time projection. Later on, we will check whether the March 2026 possible reversal is still valid. And then I have mentioned the exact structure of gold, which is expanded flat. And then after that, I even forecasted that the gold will uh, drop from 96 to 97, and then worst case scenario will be 91 to 93. And we know what happened. Bitcoin hit the 80 the 80,000 level, and I'll be giving you an update of that as well. And then after that, I asked the AI to summarize my next video, which is the the November 20, November 20 session, and I have mentioned here that there are two possible scenarios from this wave counting. It's either we create three waves up only, or we create four waves up. And after 2 weeks, or after 14 days from my last podcast hosting, we are currently at this particular price action. So I'll be giving you the an update and some correction of what I have discussed last time, specifically this particular price action, because in Elliott Wave theory, there's what we call rule of proportionality. When we say rule of proportionality, if I will treat this uh, type of correction as a combination like this, then the time the time X price for the flat, or the first combination, should be proportional to the next uh, uh, com, com, combination correction, which is the possible zigzag or the triangle. Although the triangle cannot be confirmed yet, because currently we are around here of the price action. So if ever I will if this particular combination structure will be confirmed, then I have to do some uh, recount, not really recounting, but adjusting the wave counts of gold. So from this video, I did ask the uh, Copilot AI again to summarize this one. So I was given a quick summary here, and the one of the highlights here is that about the Bitcoin, which will possibly reach 96 to 97, and then worst case would be 91 to 93. But that's not actually the worst case, because the price reached an 81, and both gold and Bitcoin are having the same corrective structure, which is an expanded flat correction, a 335 pattern. So now let's proceed with the continuation of this count. So as I have mentioned, uh, I need to do some correction on my labeling here, specifically the possible W, X, and Y. Why? Simply because I have mentioned already the rule of proportionality. If 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 I will label this as a possible WXY, then my W here should be proportional to the time and price spent by the wave X, which is this possible wave X. Now, the next question there is this the termination of the Y, or will there be another possible structure? And that's what I'm going to explain today. So from this analysis, the WXY, which is not proportional, I'd like to make a modification of my count, and this time I will consider doing my WXY here, or a possible here, using this possible combination, which is a flat, zigzag, and triangle. So why flat, zigzag, and triangle? This one is an expanded flat, so therefore the first condition was satisfied. And then we have the zigzag. We have here the possible A, B, and C. So this will be the possible A, B, and C, the zigzag. Although here we cannot confirm yet, whether the the triangle or whether the end structure will be triangle, because we are currently at wave B. So the wave B. So this possible flat zigzag triangle combination will only be confirmed once the we complete the internal waves of wave B. And as of now, the internal waves of wave B is actually already completed. Why? Going back here, let me just take a screenshot of this one and let me paste it here. If you will try to look at it, wave the flat here, we already have, I already explained the flat correction here, which is three waves down, one, two, three. So the flat correction will be one, two, three. We have one, two, three, and then one, two, three up, one, two, three up, and then we have one, two, three, four, five. One, two, three, four, and then five. So therefore, we are done with the first part of this possible combination correction, which is the flat. Now let's go to the zigzag. The zigzag is an ABC, meaning the ABC must be composed of five waves up for wave A, three waves down for wave B, and then three waves up for wave C for the internal waves of this wave X. As you can see here, the possible we have the possible A, B, and C here. So therefore, we have satisfied the internal waves of this zigzag wave X. So where are we right now? We are now on the triangle part. So what will happen if what will happen to this triangle if we complete the five internal waves here? If we create five internal waves here, for example, um, it creates a new all-time high, then definitely this market structure or flat zigzag triangle combination will be invalidated. But if ever the current price action will not create a new high, for example, it will not break this high here, then I will no longer label this as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Instead, I will label this as an ABC, an A, B, and C. So if ever this will fail to create a new high, I mean, not new all-time high, if ever this will fail to do that and breaks this first line of defense, the territory of wave A, that would mean that the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 waves up here will no longer be considered as a possible wave 3, because according to the rules of Elliott wave theory, especially in an impulsive motive wave, that wave 3 of course must not be the shortest, and aside from that, wave 3, or rather after an impulsive movement for a possible wave 3, wave 4 should not overlap the territory of wave 1 here. So in this particular case, we are still safe if ever we will consider this as wave 1, 2, and then 3, 4, and 5. So when will this 5 waves up be invalidated? This will only be invalidated if we break the 4, 8,132.810 level, simply because wave 4 in an impulsive motive wave 4 cannot overlap the territory of wave 1. So if we create a new high, I'll count it 5 waves up. If we break this price, the 4,132, then I will go back to my possible corrective structure, which is a flat zigzag triangle correction, which is exactly illustrated here in the elliottwave.com. So that will be the possible case for gold. So I repeat, if we create a new high here and then completes the 5 waves up, then the structure will no longer be a combination of flat zigzag triangle. Instead, it can be considered as a possible nested 1 2, nested 1 2 1 2, and then 1 2. Or in Elliott wave theory, if you see multiple nested 1 2s, for example, instead of uh, labeling this as 1 1 2, sorry, instead of doing multiple 1 2s and 1 2s, these 1 2s will be can be upgraded into a a leading diagonal. So when what do we mean by leading diagonal? A leading diagonal, from the word itself, can only be seen either in the internal waves of wave 1 or the internal waves of the wave 1 going to 3. But in this case, if we will consider this as a possible reversal, then the possible leading diagonal will be counted as wave 1 here, wave 2. This can be considered as wave 3. This can be considered as wave 4. And then if ever this will create a new high and creates the fifth wave and completes the internal waves of this fifth wave, then I may consider counting this as a leading diagonal. So meaning after a correction from here to the the peak of this possible fifth wave, if ever it will create a new high, then the possible correction will be around 50% to 61.8% of from the origin to the peak of the possible leading diagonal. So that will be the case if ever it will create a new high, a possible leading diagonal, and if ever if it will fail to create a new high here, then the scenario would be a triangle wave Y, which is this one. Because as you can see, internal waves are clearly valid. So we have from X here, this is the X. From X here, we need 3 waves down. Here, as you can see, I labeled this as W, X, and Y. So therefore, we have satisfied the internal waves of a possible first wave of the triangle, which is 1 2 3, 3 waves down. And then we also have the possible 1 2 3 for the internal waves of the wave B. So as of now, we are here at wave B. So the the next uh, the next possible price action, or the next possible movement of gold, will depend on what will happen here. If it creates 5 waves up, leading diagonal. If it will break the territory of our possible wave 1 here, then I will consider it as a triangle. So this usually when the market is like this, I'd like to wait for a confirmation. And what would be my confirmation? If the market breaks this, for example, we have here three waves up. We have one, two, three, four, possible five waves down, and then three waves up. So if ever it will break, for example, here, if ever the market at least uh, top or even top or breaks or overlaps the territory of this wave one, then I will consider uh, the triangle wave Y. And if ever the triangle wave one will happen, the possible reversal, if I will base it on, if I will check the, or I mean, I will do a time projection, then the time projection would be, may happen at the following, in the following time window. So if I will consider this as the possible wave one, so if this is the possible wave one, so my time projection would be for the wave 4 to be completed will be at this particular time windows. November 14, November 27, and the next would be November, or rather December 5. So we will see by tomorrow if it will create a new high here, then therefore leading diagonal. If it fails to create a new high and breaks this as confirmation, then we will see the flat zigzag triangle combination. So that's the situation of the gold. So if you are bullish with gold, then this is your most important point of interest. The price should not break the 4,132.810. Now, if you're bearish with gold, then the price should not create a new high, which is at 4,264.560. But of course, if you are a, excuse me, but of course, if you are a scalper, uh, the directional bias for the higher time frame will not be a problem for you because you only see the check the daily bias, and the daily bias is obviously uptrend for today, which is uh, which may test the horizontal resistance at 4,264. Okay, so this is the my analysis, Elliott Wave analysis for um, gold. Let us now proceed with Bitcoin. But before we proceed to the Bitcoin, allow me to check some chats if ever there are questions asked and I was not able to check to read it. There was a question from Ashton Stephanie. So how would you look at your entries after that happens? Are you referring to the possible bearish scenario or the bullish scenario? I'd like to ask Ashton first. So how would you look at your entries after that, as mentioned by Ashton? perhaps uh, he's not around. Okay, so anyway, as to the question, how would you look at your entries after that? If we break this, I'll find a short position. If we break this, I'll find an, a long position. So that's how I approach the market based on the Elliott Wave theory. But of course, that's for a possible semi-swing or swing positions. But if I will do scalping, I can use the quarterly theory in for an intraday trade or scalp trade. Okay, now let's proceed to Bitcoin. Before I will proceed with the current counts of the downtrend here, allow me to explain two possible scenarios for Bitcoin. The first scenario would be this one. If I will label this as my wave 1, 2, 3, 4, and then this will be my wave 5, and go back to the regular scale, then therefore this will be my wave 1 of the higher time frame. So if this is my wave 1 of the higher time frame, then the possible wave 3 would be this one. This will be my possible wave 3. Internal waves, I'm referring to the internal waves. So if that will be the internal waves of my wave 3, then this will be my possible wave 5. Let me go back to the logarithmic scale again and label this as wave 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we have here the 5. So therefore, if I will count the Bitcoin this way, then therefore we can say that we have completed the internal waves of a an impulsive movement. So why impulsive movement? Because the first 5 waves can be labeled as wave 1. This could be considered as wave 1. This will be wave 2, 3, 4, and 5. So in this particular scenario of Bitcoin, this means that if I will treat the market this way, then therefore we are currently on the higher degree correction of Bitcoin. Why? Because in Elliott wave theory, once we have completed the internal waves of the wave 1, the wave 3, and the wave 5, then therefore the next price action that will happen is the correction. If we will treat this as wave 1, wave 2, 3, 4, and then 5. Now, if you will ask me, Sir Jack, is that really possible? Because if we will check carefully, the wave 4 here retraces beyond the territory of wave 1. And in Elliott wave theory, this cannot be considered as an impulsive movement. Why not impulsive movement? Because according to the cardinal rules of Elliott wave theory, wave 3 cannot be wave 2 should not retrace beyond the territory of the start of the start of wave 1 or the origin. Wave 3 cannot be the shortest. Obviously, wave 3 is not the shortest here. And then wave 4 should not um, overlap the territory of wave 1. However, in this case, wave 4 retraces beyond the territory of wave 1, which means that we cannot consider this as an impulsive movement. If ever we will count it as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then this will be considered as a possible leading diagonal. Leading diagonal. So therefore, if you if we are really bullish with Bitcoin, then a healthy correction should happen first before creating a possible new all-time high. So where will be the possible correction if we will treat BTC this way. So allow me to use the logarithmic scale again and measure the golden zone. Oops, sorry. Here to here. And allow me to use, let me just adjust this. So if ever we will consider this leading diagonal structure, then therefore the ideal wave 2 correction would be at 63,109.52 to 48,215. So if we will consider this as a leading diagonal, excuse me for a while. So that will be the situation of gold if we will treat the current counts as a leading diagonal. So retracement can go, or the correction can go at the equilibrium, which is at 63,109.52, or can go at the golden zone or golden ratio, which is at 48,215.67. So this is just the scenario if we treat Bitcoin right now, Bitcoin's Elliott Wave counts as leading diagonal. Now, let's proceed to the second possible scenario or valid scenario, because this one is technically valid if we will talk about the rules of Elliott Wave theory as a leading diagonal. So what will be the next scenario? The next scenario would be, what if we treat this as a nested, instead of leading diagonal, we will treat this as a nested 1, 2. So how will that, how will I label that if I will treat this as a nested 1, 2? So let me just um, hide this first. So if I'm going to treat this as a nested 1, 2, then therefore I will set this here first. Let me change this into micro, uh, subminute. So if I'm going to, the next scenario is what we call a nested 1, 2. Nested 1, 2. Meaning, from the word itself, nested, meaning we will see uh, multiple 1, 2s. In this case, the first 1, 2 would be from here, the first 5 internal waves as the first nested 1, 2, and the possible next nested 1, 2 would be this one from here to here. And this will be the possible the second nested one, 2. So therefore, in the leading diagonal scenario, the retracement can go as low as 68,000 to 40,000 plus. However, if we will treat this as a nested 1-2 scenario, then the invalidation of this nested 1-2 would be at this particular price, the 68,997.75. So for this to become a valid nested 1-2, the retracement should bounce above 68,997. In other words, my corrective structure or my Elliott Wave structure will depend whether will depend on how the 68,997.75 will be respected. If ever this will be respected, then nested 1-2 scenario. But if ever we break or we hit this particular level, then the leading diagonal scenario that I have mentioned a while ago will possibly happen. Now, of course, whether it is leading diagonal or a nested 1-2, what we are certain right now is that we are currently in a correction for Bitcoin. So what is the situation now in terms of the Elliott Wave counts of Bitcoin? So let's start from here, from the all-time high price to this price. So allow me to change the time frame into daily time frame. So as I have labeled this a while ago, yes, hide this first. As I have labeled this a while ago, I have labeled this as my 1, 2, then I labeled this as my 3, 4, and then 5. My 5 terminates here, not here. I have explained this already, why I have terminated my fifth wave here, simply because for the internal waves of this fifth wave here, allow me to show you the lower time frame counts. So this is my lower time frame counts for the encircled wave 5 here. And then allow me to show you again the internal waves of the parenthesis wave 4 to 5 for you to understand the possible correction, which I have mentioned in my previous analysis, which is the expanded flat. Excuse me for. So the internal wave counts for the encircled wave 5, the parenthesis wave 5 of encircled wave 5 would be like this. This will be the wave 1, the wave 3, the 4, and then this will be the 5. So if this is the 5, then, sorry, let me just adjust this first. Let me move this and then change this into micro and then change this into subminuet. Okay, as you can see, we need to check again the internal waves of wave 4 to 5 if it is completed or not, because the correction will only happen once the internal waves are completed in Elliott wave theory. So in this case, this would be the smaller wave 1, 2, 3, and then 4, and then 5 here. So if we will as you can see, you have completed the internal waves of the encircled wave 5 here to the Roman numeral number 5, which means that if you will uh, use the rules of Elliott wave theory, then therefore fifth wave should be terminated here, not here, because I've seen some wave counts wherein they terminated their wave 5 here, which is obviously will invalidate the rules of Elliott wave theory, because if I'm going to show you the internal waves, so what will be the internal waves of this if we will terminate it here? As you can see, wave 4, a motive wave will become invalid if wave 4 retraces beyond the territory of wave 2. And in this case, since we have wave 4 overlaps the territory of wave 2, then therefore this is no longer a motive wave but a corrective wave. Therefore, this can only be labeled as an ABC a instead of a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if this is terminated here, then therefore we have the first three waves here, another three waves up. So therefore, what particular type of correction is this? And uh, in Elliott wave theory, if the first three waves, or if the first downtrend after completing the internal waves of the fifth wave is three waves down, then the possible corrective structure would be a flat, an expanded flat. So what is an expanded flat? An expanded flat is looks like this one. The first uh, downtrend from after the completing the internal waves of the fifth wave is three waves down, which is this three waves down here, and then after that another three waves up, overlapping or sweeping the high of the previous wave 3 here, and in this case, or wave 5 here. And in this case, as you can see, this is the high of the fifth wave. It was swept. It was swept. So we have here the wave B here. We can label this as the wave B. Let me just paste this here to avoid switching from one tab to another. So we have satisfied the first three waves for wave A. So I label this as my possible wave A. This will be the wave B and the wave C. So let me use the micro or the encircled wave ABC. So we have completed the internal waves of the wave A, ABC. We have completed the internal waves of the wave B, ABC. We are now on the last part of this possible expanded flat scenario. And as you can see here, the expanded flat scenario, the structure is 335. 335. Meaning the first downtrend is three waves. The next wave will be three waves up, and the last wave, or the wave C, should be composed of five internal waves. And this expanded flat scenario was forecasted way ahead. If you have been following my podcast hosting, as early as um, November 6, it was forecasted already, or I think it was around October 22 or October 23. It was forecasted already that the possible corrective structure for Bitcoin is an expanded flat. So if we will go back here. Where are we in terms of the internal waves of this wave C for a possible expanded flat scenario? So the counting should be 335. So therefore, I should have uh, a valid 5 internal waves here. So this will be my wave 1. This will be my wave 2. And this will be my wave 3, 4, and 5. So therefore, we are not yet done with the internal waves of the fifth wave here. Why? Allow me to show you the internal waves for you to understand what I'm trying to explain. So in Elliott wave theory, as I've mentioned, before we terminate a wave, the internal waves must be completed. So what will be the internal waves of wave 1? It should be 5, 5 waves down. This will be the first wave down, 2, 3, and then 4, and then 5. So as you can see, we have completed the 5 internal waves of the encircled wave 1. So therefore, this is a valid wave 1. For wave 2, we can consider this as an ABC correction or an ABC bounce. Internal waves 5 waves up for wave A, wave B is 3 waves, and then wave C is 5 waves. So therefore, internal waves of wave 2 is clearly is clear is clearly a valid uh, correction. Now, where are we in terms of the internal waves of this third wave? So, excuse me for a while. So allow me to explain the internal waves now so that you will have a directional bias in terms of Elliott wave theory for Bitcoin. So we have here the internal waves. This can be considered as the wave 1, 2, and this could be the 3, and then the 4, and then we have here the 5. So therefore, the internal waves of the encircled wave 3 is not yet completed for a possible expanded flat scenario. And what would be the invalidation of these uh, internal waves of the encircled wave 5 or wave 3? I mean, the invalidation here would be, or the first and last line of defense would be the following. Ideally, the price should not break the bearish first line of defense because remember, leading diagonal leading diagonal can only happen even if it's downtrend. The leading diagonal can only happen either as, or sorry, not leading diagonal. What I mean is a diagonal. A diagonal can only happen as a leading diagonal for wave 1 or leading diagonal, or it can be also in wave A, or an ending diagonal for wave 5 or for wave C. But a diagonal can never happen in the internal waves of this wave 3. And as you can see, we are trying to complete the internal waves of this encircled wave 3, then therefore, these 5 waves down should not be a diagonal. Meaning, even if I don't put my last line of defense there, I will only put my first line of defense at 98,938.49. The price based on Elliott wave theory should not break this territory. So if ever this expanded flat scenario is the real corrective structure for Bitcoin, then therefore the market should respect the 98,938.49 first line of defense, the invalidation of an impulsive movement. So if ever the market will respect this particular price, then the internal waves will now be continued, and the price action that may happen will look like this one. 5 internal waves for the parenthesis wave 5, then 3 waves up for the internal waves of this wave 4, and then another 5 waves down for the possible last wave of the expanded flat scenario, and then a bounce from the golden zone. This is the 50% level, which is at, what's the value of this one? Let me just change it into 4-hour time frame. And then show it in days and in weeks. Okay, sorry. Let me show it in weeks so that I can adjust. There you go. So if ever the expanded flat scenario is really the corrective structure, then the market may terminate at this particular price reversal zone, either at 63,109.52 or 48,215.67 to complete the expanded flat scenario. So that is my insight in terms of uh, the Elliott Wave counts of Bitcoin. And um, you will not be surprised of this particular price action simply because I have shared since I started doing live analysis here around 2 years ago, or August of, or rather May of 2024. I've been giving you uh, wave by wave updates of gold and Bitcoin, and I am proud to say that uh, within with that um, since May 2024, I've been giving you correct Elliott wave structure of gold and Bitcoin. So as of now, that's my insight or my Elliott wave perspective of gold and Bitcoin. So whatever will play out depends on the POI that you should monitor closely. For gold, the price to monitor is at 4,132.810. Once we break that, it's bearish for a possible triangle uh, combination. If we break this leading diagonal, if we break this uh, WXY or flat zigzag triangle correction. For Bitcoin, if we break the first line of defense, then I will no longer consider this as an impulse 5 waves down. Instead, the alternative scenario would be a, a motive wave wherein the internal waves will be considered as 333. So when I say 333, the a diagonal For example, we break this. Let me just replicate this first. For example, we break the territory of the wave 1 here. So how will you approach that, Sir Jack? Then therefore, I will change my motive wave from an impulsive to a diagonal. So this is an impulsive motive wave C for an expanded flat scenario. And if ever we break the bearish first line of defense, then my next possible wave counting to complete the expanded flat scenario will look like this one. We break, for example, this bearish first line of defense, then I will consider um, recounting. I will consider a recount, and then the internal waves of my recount will probably look like this one. Internal waves of wave A will become 3 waves using A, B, C, like this one. Another A, B, C here, A, B, C, then another A, B, C, then another A, B, C, another A, B, C. So from 535 structure, this is the impulsive motive wave. So the structure of an impulsive motive wave is 53535, while this one, sorry, um, going back to what I mentioned a while ago, there are two possible uh, expanded scenario wave C here. It's either a 53535 corrective, or rather motive, motive wave C, wave C, this is for wave C, or a diagonal wave C. So if it is motive wave C or impulsive motive wave C, then the structure would be 53535. But if ever we break the bearish first line of defense here in the current uptrend, if we break this, then I will consider switching from a an impulsive motive wave to a diagonal motive wave. Okay? Let me just check the chat if there are questions that I have missed to answer. From Phoenix. But the US monetary policy is making it difficult for the impulse waves to complete recently. Great and yeah, I agree with that. Just like what I have mentioned in my many sessions here, uh, that's the beauty of combining technical analysis and fundamental analysis. And I have mentioned it in my previous video. Allow me to show you the that part. I think I have highlighted it here. There you go. Okay, in my November 20, 2025 podcast session, I have emphasized that fundamentals will tell us when to trade, and the technicals will show us where to trade. So as of now, technically speaking, how do we approach the market? Then this could be the possible market structure using Elliott Wave theory. And fundamentally, we know that it's hard to ignore the many FUDs or FUDs in the market, especially in the crypto, that uh, it's hard to ignore the fundamentals, which is bearish as of now. Okay, there's another question from Kimura on BTC. Instead of an expanded flat ABC, this correction couldn't be a WXY. I will I will consider it as a WXY if the structure will become similar to gold. Remember that I have mentioned in the beginning of my analysis, this is the possible structure for gold, a combination flat zigzag, or rather, sorry, this one, a flat zigzag and triangle. Now, if I will label it as a WXY, the WXY internal wave should be three waves for W, three waves for Y, and another three waves for X and another three waves for Y. But of course, we cannot confirm whether it's a 333 wave counts. Allow me to show that correction so that others will see what I'm trying to share. Corrective waves, this one. So I will only consider it as a WXY um, if and only if the internal waves are satisfied. As of now, I don't see a valid W and valid X and Y because, as I have mentioned from my detailed analysis a while ago, I have shown you the internal waves and we have satisfied the expanded flat. Uh, I've mentioned already one confirmation of an expanded flat scenario is that this is not an impulse wave, an ABC only sweeping the previous high. That means in Elliott wave theory that can only be a flat, and that flat is an expanded flat like this one. So I will only entertain another corrective structure once the current insight is invalidated. Okay, so I think regarding to your nested one to alternative count on BTC, second one to can have any size compared. It's not about size or it's not about the how big the pump was or how big the dump was. It's all about the internal waves. So the things that I have shared to you in terms of the structure of BTC was all based on the internal waves. And those are all valid because I've shown you the internal waves and we have satisfied the rules and of wave counting and measurement of Elliott wave theory. So therefore, the leading diagonal can be is a valid scenario, and the nested one too is also a valid scenario. Of course, it all depends on the invalidation. So it's important, especially if you're an Elliottician, it's important to know your invalidation. And I have mentioned already that the invalidation should be based on the structure that you have identified. I have given my view on gold, and I'm sorry to uh, to deny your request because it's already time for me to end this session. Anyway, this session is recorded and will be shared in my YouTube account, and the YouTube account's name is, or YouTube channel is, Jack of All Waves. This is my my channel. All my sessions in Blue Guardian are uploaded here. So if you are late, you may check my uploaded video probably later or uh, tomorrow morning in my country because it's already 1 a.m. here, and um, I'm a little bit sleepy already. So that will be all for today's session. I hope you have learned something from the probably the last session podcast session for this year. Uh, I'd like to wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Hopefully, if this is not your year, claim it that next year will be your profitable years in trading. Thank you, everyone. Let me ask Genesis to give me the numbers for the random giveaway. May I ask Genesis if you are still here? Let me just tag Genesis first. I think he's not around. Do we have another support here? I think we have one. Let me just check. I think Genesis is around. Genesis, 5 random, 5 random numbers within 66. Okay, thank you, Genesis. Let's do random number generator. 66. So here's the first number.